Hi, I'm Milian and welcome to the GammaRay video series. Over the next episodes, we'll be talking about how to set up GammaRay, and I'll give you an introduction of what GammaRay actually is and how to use it to debug Qt applications on Windows, Linux, embedded platforms, how to use it to actually find some interesting performance issues in complex code bases, and yeah, I hope you enjoy the ride. Welcome. So in this first installment of the GammaRay tutorial series, I want to show you how to set up GammaRay on Windows and how to actually launch it there. One of the big problems is that GammaRay actually leverages lots of details and private headers of Qt, so it has to match explicitly the same version of Qt you are using, which makes it quite hard to offer ready-made installers for all combinations of compilers and Qt versions and so forth. Instead, let's just go to github/kdab/GammaRay, which is where we host our sources of GammaRay. It's an open source application, patches welcome, feedback welcome. Just go there and browse around, especially have a look at the README, which contains lots of interesting documentation. And to actually build it, we will click the green clone or download button and then copy the Git repository URL of GammaRay, and now we switch back to something like Qt Creator, or you could use any other IDE for that purpose. I'll show you how to do it with Qt Creator. So here you go to New File or Project, and then on the left-hand side inside the Projects pane, make sure you select Import Project, and then in the middle pane, Git clone. We want to clone GammaRay from its Git sources. Paste the repository URL on the top and then switch forward to the next page. And Git is starting to do its magic. It should hopefully be quite quick about it. And once you have all the sources checked out, we can finish the import wizard and start configuring the project. And this is a very important step. Once more, GammaRay has to match explicitly the same version of Qt and the compiler that you will be using for your application. So here we'll be using the Qt 5.12.3 MSVC 2017 64-bit compiler kit, and this is also what we'll be using later on in the for our applications. We won't need all of the different build types of GammaRay. By default, the release build should be enough. So unselect all the other build configurations and then finally say configure project. This will launch CMake in the background and takes a couple of seconds. It configures the build and it checks whether all of the dependencies are met or not. So do have a look at the output pane here. Usually you will find a couple of notes about missing optional dependencies. These are usually fine because your application won't, for example, use Qt IVI, and thus you can just ignore these optional packages. Some third-party dependencies like the KDAB state machine editor framework are actually quite useful, but we'll talk about that in a future installment of this tutorial series. So once CMake has successfully parsed our project, we can actually start compiling. Do select the GammaRay launcher as a run configuration. So this is the executable we want to launch when we are starting GammaRay. And now we can actually push the button to build GammaRay. And this will take a couple of minutes, so we'll skip over that in this video. One tip though before I leave is make sure to use Ninja on Windows because that actually makes a huge difference from a build performance point of view by leveraging all of the cores available on your machine. So let's meet back in a couple of minutes after the compile job is done. Cheers! So welcome back. I hope GammaRay finished compiling without any issues for you too. So now we can actually use the launcher to fire up GammaRay. So let's quickly hit run once more. Make sure you have the GammaRay launcher selected and this is how it's going to look like. Don't be afraid of this Windows security alert. It is there by purpose. GammaRay uses network connection internally. So for that purpose, do allow it access. Note that this will be required for remote connecting to a different application running on a completely different machine, for example. So yes, do allow access. And now we're inside the GammaRay launcher. We could attach a running application using Qt, or, which is what we want to do, we can launch an executable. And for that, we obviously need some executable to launch. And I really like the same game example, which we can open from Qt Creator. Just go to the welcome screen, examples, search for same game, funny little game, pick that, quit the documentation, make sure it's configured. I just need to make sure it is using the explicitly same kit that you also used for compiling GammaRay. And now configure the project. And we can, just for testing purposes, launch same game. It will compile, but this is much quicker. So here it is already. And let's quit that already, because what we want to do is we want to launch the application from within GammaRay. So copy the path you can find inside the application output tool view in Qt Creator to the same game executable you just compiled. So copy that one. Go back to the GammaRay launcher, paste that inside the launch executable, line edit, and then press launch. And what you should see is this, a big screen with lots and lots of tools. This is GammaRay. Over the next episodes, we'll dive into each individual, maybe not each one, but the most important tools we have here. And I'll show you how you can leverage the information presented to you there. And just a little hint, make sure your application you just started says something like injected by GammaRay inside the title bar, and then you can be sure GammaRay is running. I hope this worked for you as well. If you have any questions or problems, make sure to get in touch with us. And do have a look at the links we'll put down inside the description for further documentation and help. Enjoy!